You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the Daily Express columnist and broadcaster Carol Malone and the Liverpool Echo's political editor Liam Thorpe. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Keep calm and carry on. The Metro leads with the controversy surrounding the royal book after King Charles and the Princess of Wales are named as the senior royals who questioned what skin colour Prince Archie would have. And that's the same with the Express, which asks if it's an injustice to name the royals in race row. King and Kate in race row leads the Mirror as they note the fallout following the release of Omid Scobie's book. The Mail says Scobie's defence is unravelling as he denies ever naming the royals. And the Telegraph says the palace are to look at legal action over the claim of being named as racist royals. The Times leads with the COVID inquiry as Matt Hancock admits delays in lockdown was a mistake. The Eye leads with the Labour Party stance on the EU and its foreign policy commitments. While The Guardian leads with COP28 held in Dubai as a landmark deal is reached to help poorer countries deal with climate crisis. The Daily Star pays tribute to late musical legend Shane MacGowan. And that's the same for The Sun with "And the bells are ringing out for Shane." And a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch us. And we are joined tonight by Carol Malone and Liam Thorpe. Welcome to you both. Special welcome to Liam, as this is your first time appearing in person in the studio. Good to see you. Let's start with the Telegraph and the story that many of the front pages are covering. Their headline, Palace to look at legal action over racist royals claim. And this is following on from the publishing of a translation of Omid Scobie's book about Harry and Meghan. Carol, you take us into this first.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope they do look at legal action. I mean, this little peacock of a man has said something. He's insisting that he didn't put the names into the book, and his explanation for how they got there is farcical. But yeah, I really hope they do, because the royals have throughout maintained what they call a dignified silence. But I think there comes a point when silence is no longer dignified, because what it makes it look like is that they're not arguing with what he says. So is it true? People would say, it must be true if they're not fighting back. I think, you get to a point where, if someone keeps peeing all over you and you're saying thanks very much for that, you start to look stupid. And I think the royals are at the point now where they're beginning to look stupid by not responding to this.
But we are used to the royals not commenting,
that
never complain.
Nothing has been as big to hit them as this, as the claims from Meghan and Harry, as the claims from Scobie. They've had things in the past that have gone, but nothing like this. And I think this needs an answer. And he needs to be asked to prove what he's saying. And already what he's saying is unravelling. He's already put the blame...
Well, he's saying that he hasn't named them.
It would be... his argument to say that there were no copy of the book that was sent to Holland is farcical. What is he suggesting, then, that the translators put two separate paragraphs in the books without knowledge? Is he suggesting the publisher put them in there? Because that's farcical, because the publisher had to mulch and pulp thousands and thousands of books. It doesn't make sense. This pans out very well for Scobie, apart from the fact he's looking stupid, because his argument is unravelling, but it's going to sell more books for him, the fact that the names are out there now. And it's interesting, Tom Bower, who's a very trusted, royal writer, the man who actually does proper research on his books, he has actually said he doesn't believe these two names are the names. He doesn't believe it is Charles and Kate. He's saying there would never be a situation where those two would be discussing Archie's skin colour. And I think that's maybe why the royal family are considering legal action, because maybe he's got the names wrong.
Liam, what do you think?
I think possibly the most interesting aspect here is if the royals are considering, as the Telegraph says, considering legal action against media outlets around the world. We saw Piers Morgan kind of went first, not want to shy away from a controversial move, and he named the two royals first, and we've seen subsequent media outlets around the world go with that. And we often see the media act in a kind of a pack. When the pack moves, we all go in this kind of safety in numbers. But you'll see through some of these front pages that some have named the two royals, some suspected of being involved in this conversation, some of them haven't. What that would mean then if the royals were to launch into a legal row with, you know, all of Britain's newspapers, you know, how far does it go? And it'd be very high profile, very embarrassing as well in many ways, because you get kind of all your dirty laundry comes out in court, as we've seen in previous court cases. I just don't think they're going to do that.
But it's just, I don't think that the court case would be about race, because I don't think it's racist to discuss race. I don't think, you know, that a conversation between 2 people or 4 people or 5 people, you know, I think people up and down the country, if there's a mixed race marriage, I'm pretty sure that the parents in that situation would talk about the likely tone of their baby's skin. I'm pretty sure the family would. I think they would, Liam.
I think
it's very difficult because we don't know the context of the conversation.
No,
we don't even really know how the conversation took place, if the conversation took place.
The way that Meghan described it on the Oprah Winfrey interview was a pretty horrible way of phrasing that, if that is...
And do you think the 2 people that have been named would have that horrible conversation? I don't believe that for a second, because I don't believe Charles would think that, and I certainly don't believe Kate would. So I think, you know, I don't think having that conversation is racist. And I've read so many pieces from people of colour saying it isn't. It's just what families would do in that situation. But the way it's been written about, the way Scobie writes about it, the way Meghan talked about it, she made it into a racist issue. They called them racist. Even Harry said in the book Spare, he admitted...
I don't think she actually did call anyone racist in that
She didn't use the word racist,
Oprah Winfrey
but she was asked
interview.
the question, and it was implicit in the way she was asked and the way she answered the question. But, you know, Harry's actually said that, in the book Spare, that he didn't think the conversation was racist. So what is this actually all about now? If Harry is saying it isn't, what is it all about? It's Scobie trying to get his name out there and trying to make a shed load of money.
The Metro, Liam, is saying keep calm and carry on. Do you think that is really the route that the royal family will continue to pursue?
As I say, I think they probably will, because, you know, there's pictures here of Kate and William, who are at an event with the future Queen of Sweden, and they're obviously trying to give off the impression that everything is OK, that they're moving around as normal. The sources in the other papers suggest that, obviously, behind the scenes, everyone's absolutely...
I bet they are.
...furious,
yeah.
everyone's
and
sort of going crazy.
Because here they go again, being called racist.
But as I say, you know, it would be a massive move for the royals to take on the press, because that's what we're talking about here. You know, we're talking about defamation, for example.
Well, no,
it would be against every news organisation.
And it wouldn't be taking on Omid Scobie then?
But, well, if you look in the Telegraph, it says that they're considering action after media outlets around the world began naming the so-called royal racists. So there is an implication there that they may look at where their names have been spread.
But they may very well so Omid Scobie.
I imagine he would be an initial target.
You know, show us your proof. Where has this information come from? They would make his life very difficult, and that's what they should do. Not the rest of the world, but him, because you can't have people putting stuff out there when there is no substantive proof of it. You can't.
I think the one thing I definitely would agree with Carol on is that it seems incredibly spurious that you know, that a translator would insert this detail into the Dutch version of the book. I think the theory of Occam's razor would suggest it's much more likely that it was in there already, and it was maybe supposed to be removed and it wasn't. But I think
this poor girl, Liam, she's called Saskia Peters, and she's one of the Dutch translators. And she's one of the top translators in Holland. She was given this job. And she's had the world press at her door today, you know, harassing her. Yeah. And she actually said, you know, she said the names were there in black and white. Now, do I believe her or do I believe Omid Scobie? I believe her.
It would seem an incredible sort of act of sabotage for a translator to include that detail. That's really hard to believe.
You know, that translator would be very aware of the ruckus this would cause. So there she is, just sitting doing her job. She's going to put the two... No, she's not going to put the 2 names in.
But isn't it self-sabotage for Omid Scobie, though?
Yeah, but he's
likely to backfire tremendously.
Everyone, I mean, look, you know, every front page in the UK is talking about his book. Yeah. So that in some ways that has worked out quite well for him. You know, in my opinion, there are much bigger stories happening, but everyone is talking about this.
But
now,
it is
so.
interesting. They're not talking about the book per se. They're talking about Omid Scobie. He has become the story, which doesn't necessarily mean.
But they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, especially if you've got a new book out.
Would you guys buy a book by Omid Scobie? Oh.
I only found out who he was about an hour ago.
You did? That's what I'm saying.
No, I've heard his name coming up, but I don't really understand how he's sort of got to this position and why he's so prominent. Really, you might.
But today he said there was one interview today. He said, you know, I struggle to be taken seriously. Well, yes, of course you do, love, because you know you keep on. You know, when he wrote the book Finding Freedom, he said he had no help from Meghan whatsoever. And it turns out he did, and it turns out she, under oath in court, she had to say that she had sent briefing notes ahead of a meeting with him. So you know, whatever he says, the guy, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, which is why I think the palace should look at legal action.
But the fact remains that the translation has been taken off the shelves tonight, though, hasn't it?
Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of books have been pulped, and that's why it's a nonsense that the publisher would have inserted these names, because the publishers now just had to lose a lot of money by pulping a load of books. So, I mean, that's nonsense as well. I mean, I suspect by the time we all get up tomorrow, this story will have moved on a bit, and his argument will have completely unravelled by tomorrow.
The front of the Mirror is suggesting that the palace, the entire royal family, is united in outrage over this whole episode, which suggests that there might be some action from the royal family for the first time.
I hope so. I mean, you see, you can't just keep launching horse manure at a family and expect them never to respond. And the reason so much has been written about it, and the reason Harry's got away with it and Meghan got away with it for so long, is because they knew the royal family weren't going to react. Well, maybe it's time they did.
I guess Carol's point earlier is that, you know, the longer you maintain that silence, there will be, you know, people around the world who will start to think, well maybe it's true. So I imagine there'll be some furious kind of PR meetings with all their PR advisors about if they say something, what they say. It's normally incredibly well crafted, isn't it?
Yeah.
And very. I know they obviously take great care over the words they put out. Everyone is waiting to see what they're going to say. So yeah, I guess we'll see.
I hope so. I really hope they do.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, the Daily Express columnist and broadcaster Carol Malone, and the Liverpool Echo's political editor Liam Thorpe. Let's continue having a look at the newspapers, and just want to look at this story on the front page of The Guardian. Just to the left of the front page there, Hamas kill 3 at bus stop in Jerusalem, and this through the extension of the ceasefire. 3 people gunned down at a bus stop in Jerusalem. Liam.
Yeah, so it's just another really difficult sort of facet to the story that's going on in the Middle East at the moment. Hamas has claimed responsibility for these shootings, which obviously is significantly away from Gaza and what's happening there. We know that with the ceasefire in Gaza still continuing, for now at least, more hostages are being returned to their families as we speak. I believe it was 8 at the last time of checking. But this is kind of a reminder that there are issues over towards the West Bank as well. We know that there's been violence towards Palestinians in the West Bank by Israeli settlers. That's something that the Americans have condemned. And then obviously there's been the shooting in Jerusalem today. It's an extremely febrile situation in all aspects. And I think it's a reminder of just how complex this situation is. All eyes are on Gaza and what's happening there, and then suddenly violence has exploded elsewhere in Jerusalem and in the West Bank. I should say that Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, has condemned the violence that's been happening from Israelis to Palestinians in the West Bank. That situation has been bubbling over at the same time as what we've been seeing, the sort of destruction of Gaza following the horror of October the 7th. So it's an extremely complex situation. And it's in some ways it's marred the slightly more positive news, which is of this further hostage releasing, exchanging, and I guess the update on that is that as things stand, the ceasefire is ending tomorrow, but the hope is that it will be extended for 2 days, and the Qataris, the Egyptians, and the Americans are all certainly working hard to do that. Yes,
but officially the end of the ceasefire is tomorrow morning. But we've just got some pictures of the Offa prison in the West Bank, where we believe that 30 Palestinian prisoners are to be released this evening. That part of the agreement for the release of the Israeli hostages. Those are the very latest pictures. I don't believe there has been any release of the Palestinian prisoners as yet, but that could still come.
Well, it might and it might not after what happened today in Jerusalem, the bus stop attack. You know, what it does is it just dampens any hope of any long-term ceasefire. You know, if the Palestinians are breaking it, and as Liam's just explained that that the Israelis are perpetrating violence, on the other side, it just it's not just shows how complex the situation. It shows that kind of both sides don't actually want a solution, because no one's fighting for the solution. All around the world we're marching and we're saying, let's have a ceasefire, have a ceasefire. But then we've had one, and look what's happening. This violence is still happening on both sides. Hamas always said, didn't they, that even if there was a ceasefire, they would still carry on fighting, and that's exactly what they're doing. But this just doesn't hold out any hope for a long-term solution, because Netanyahu will now say, OK, you're coming into Jerusalem to shoot people here. No more exchanges. It's not going to happen. So, you've got half the world working towards these ceasefires, trying to get get longer and longer. It's not going to happen. I just don't see the end game. Oh God, I've used the name of his book. I'm just
trying to get back to that.
No, I don't want to go back to that. I don't see what the end result in all of this is going to be.
I think it must be an absolute nightmare for those who are working on the ceasefire extension for something as tragic as that happened today, because it just ups the ante again, and you're going to get Benjamin Netanyahu coming out with...
Yes, well, he's reiterating the fact that pledging to eliminate. Hamas.
And it makes everyone extremely worried about what's going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
And did you see the release of those young girls today? I mean, that was just the worst sight. One of them, it was the 21-year-old who was snatched from the music festival. And it was just, she was terrified. They were leading her into a Red Cross bus, and the Palestinian mob was screaming. And, I kept on thinking, I wonder what's happened to her in the past 54 days. It just doesn't bear thinking about.
Just to bring in the latest pictures from Beytouni in the West Bank. This is the situation we're seeing at the moment. Obviously, disturbances there, and we can see fires being lit. I think that's an ambulance there in the background.
And Anthony Blinken has met with Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah, because this other kind of the tension that's rising is becoming an increasing concern for those who are obviously trying to work for a solution. It's just the tension is clearly really rising in the West Bank. I think 230 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank in recent times. So it's a large number of people who are being killed away from Gaza as well.
But this is where they're expecting the release of the prisoners, so we can see the crowds gathering there.
It just doesn't sound like it's going to, does it?
We're running out of time. We're not going to have time to bring in the tributes to Shane MacGowan, but sadly today lost his life at the age of 65. We'll talk a little